The allium. No, not the flowering part, but the bulb, the root. Think like sweet Maui onions or sharp Spanish onions. There's more mild red onions, and of course shallots, pungent garlic, grassy chives, and scallions. With their versatility and variety, onions and other members of the allium family pretty much work their way into just about every dish and cuisine on Earth. In fact, you'd be hard-pressed to find very many of them which weren't in some way flavored or influenced by an allium. Perhaps no dish pays more and greater homage to the onion than French onion soup. So, what's in a name? French onion soup does derive from France, but the French in the name actually refers to the style of cutting the onions thinly. Think, French fries or French-style green beans. The rest of the components, well, there's a French baguette, but there's cheese from Switzerland, typically Gruyere. So, in a way, it's kind of a culinary mix-up, and a delicious one at that. What's in a name? More like what's in a dish. And that's what you're about to find out.
Let us begin by making a nice homemade French baguette. We'll use some bread flour, some active dry yeast, some salt, and 1.5 cups of room temperature water. So go ahead and add 4 cups of bread flour to a large bowl, followed by 2 teaspoons of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of active dry yeast, and your 1.5 cups of water. Using a spatula or the business end of a wooden spoon, go ahead and incorporate the flour and other ingredients together until a shaggy dough begins to form. At this point, you'll need to get in there with your hands. Go ahead and knead the dough, incorporating all of the loose and dry flour, even scraping down the sides of the bowl as necessary, until the flour is fully hydrated and your dough has come together. Knead for a couple of minutes, but nothing ridiculously long. Go ahead and form it into a ball, put it to bed, and tuck it in for a nice 12-hour night's sleep. After 12 to 15 hours have passed, go ahead and look at your lovely, lumpy, airy dough. Get some board flour down and carefully turn your dough out, knocking out some of those big air pockets as you go. Go ahead and knead the dough gently so that you can form it into a nice round disc, and then shape it back into a ball. Next up, using a knife or a bench scraper, we're going to go ahead and cut this in half. That would yield 2 pretty good sized baguettes, but I kind of want some that are smaller. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it into quarters. Once you've done that, knead those down into a square or rectangle shape and begin to work them out into a log. You can roll it, you can tug it, pull it, twist it. It's kind of like one of those toys you had when you were a kid, except you get to eat it when you're done. I love being an adult. Once you've got it out into about a 12 to 15 inch long baguette shape, taper your ends and get it onto a sheet pan to rest. 1 more hour and we'll be ready to bake. Now, just before you're ready to bake, use a very sharp knife or a razor blade or scissors and cut about a 1/4 inch deep slit in the bread. This is going to help air escape, steam escape, and for the bread to rise. Into a 500-degree oven it goes with a spritz of water. Spritz it every 5 minutes for 15 to 20 minutes until it is golden brown and perfectly cooked. That could have come out of a Parisian bakery. Now let us turn our attention to the onions. I've got 2 yellow onions and 4 sweet onions. Now, this actually turned out to be a bit too sweet for me, so I would recommend only using 1 or 2 sweet onions and using the rest yellow. Go ahead and get the tips and the tails off of these. We won't need that, nor shall we need the peel. So go ahead and peel it off and discard that. Now you can go ahead and slice your onions thinly and as evenly as possible. You could use a mandolin. I just like cutting things with my beautiful Miyabi knife. Once you've got all of your onions cut up wonderfully like that, go ahead and get a large pot over medium heat, add in a tablespoon or 2 of olive oil, and dump what appears to be a comically large amount of onions in there, but you'll see, they're going to cook down very nicely. Season them up with a pinch of salt, and that's going to help to draw the water out. Go ahead and stir them every couple minutes or so, and after about 5 to 10 minutes, you're going to see that you're getting water in the bottom of the pot. Now, we know that is the enemy of browning, so it's got to go. We just can't rush it. Keep stirring, just keep stirring, and after about, I'd say 20 minutes, they're going to look like that. All the water is going to be leached out, They're gonna be soft and translucent, and yeah, just keep stirring. Now, after another 10 or 20 minutes, the water will have evaporated, and you're gonna start to see the sugars caramelizing on the bottom of the pot. That's great, keep it going. Now, after what took about an hour for me, maybe take a little more, a little less for you, the water is gone, the onions and the sugars have caramelized beautifully, and we've got a nice fond. Go in there with another allium, a couple of cloves of garlic finely minced, and cook that just for a minute or two until the garlic is fragrant and softened. Now we must deal with that beautiful fond on the bottom of the pot, and I deal with it with alcohol. I'm using half a cup of dry vermouth. You could use white wine or water in a pinch. Go ahead and deglaze and scrape up all that stuff, and now we need to add our beef broth. Homemade would be best, but a good quality store-bought stock is fine. 8 cups in total, 2 or 3 sprigs of thyme, a couple bay leaves, and of course our friend black pepper. Stir everything, bring it to a simmer, and in 30 to 45 minutes, we'll have French onion soup. Make sure to remove that little bundle of thyme leaves. They've done their job. Get the bay leaves out too if you can. Now take your baguette once it's cooled and cut it into little croutons. Drizzle those with some olive oil. You could use butter if you want, but I'm trying to keep this vegan for my vegan friends out there. Into a 400-degree oven for 5 to 8 minutes to toast. And now we need some blurry smoked Gouda. I'm only going to use about 4 ounces, but go ahead and use more if you want to. You could also use Monterey Jack, Manchego, just not American. That wouldn't be right. Once you've got your cheese grated, go ahead and generously top each one of your croutons. Put those back in the oven just to melt the cheese, and we're ready to serve.
Well, let's give this a try, shall we? So rich. It's impossible to believe that there's no sugar in there. That sweetness all comes from the onions. A little bit of a tang from the cheese on top. I'm gonna tuck into the rest of this. Thanks for stopping by this week. We'll see you next Monday for an all new dishing out. In the meantime, go make something delicious.